Welcome to the latest episode of The Federal's Worldly Wise, a weekly video show that attempts to understand trending issues in international politics. Earlier this week, on August 5th, Bangladesh marked 1 year since the overthrow of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in a popular uprising. The sudden development, among other things, radically altered politics within Bangladesh and its relationship with India. To make sense of what is happening in our neighboring country and the direct implications it has for India, we have with us senior journalist Subir Bhaumik, who has covered India's northeast and the neighboring nations of Bangladesh and Myanmar for many decades. He is also the author of several books on the region and is a regular contributor to The Federal. Welcome to the Worldly Wise, Subir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Murthy.
Thank you. There are several questions that are vying for attention regarding Bangladesh. Let's set the ball rolling on India's diplomatic trajectory since the fall of Sheikh Hasina and what it means for New Delhi and Dhaka.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Delhi was caught napping by the suddenness of the development. I have it on authority from people who are very close to Sheikh Hasina, and I have known her for decades now, is that even on the morning that she, on the day she fled the country and took refuge in India, even that morning, our national security people, our MEA people were not aware that she was going to come. She will have to take refuge in India. So that was the extent of, suddenness. In short, I can say that New Delhi was caught napping. They had got so used to the fact that we have a friendly regime in Bangladesh, we have a friendly regime in Dhaka. Sheikh Hasina is a friend of India like her father was. So, we were in a terrific comfort zone, if I may say so. And therefore, when you suddenly get thrown out of your comfort zone, the best of establishments, and you look at US and what Trump is doing there, when you get thrown out of your comfort zone, it can be quite a rattling experience. And that's the case with India. India never really came to terms with the suddenness of Sheikh Hasina's ouster from power. The agitation had been going on for a while, but somehow, I have been warning people actually because I see Bangladesh very closely.
Okay.
And my connection there is with a lot of common people since my roots are from East Bengal. Mm-hmm. I've been warning a lot of people in Delhi, my good friends in, national security. And they would say, "Nahi, Bahinji sab samal lega." This was the common refrain. Bahinji meaning Sheikh Hasina. She is known as Bahinji in Delhi. Mm-hmm. Bahinji sab samal lega. So this is point number one, that New Delhi was really caught napping. When you are caught napping, the other factor comes in. Did you really have a plan B? Did you have options? Had you put all your eggs in one basket? The answer, unfortunately, is yes. India actually had put all its eggs in Sheikh Hasina's basket. I don't blame that. I won't blame Delhi for that because we really don't have many other baskets in Bangladesh. Because, Mr. Murthy, as you know, Bangladesh politics is severely polarized. And on the one hand, you have this, force of secular linguistic Bengali nationalism, which the Awami League broadly has represented over the years. They have made compromises with, hardline Islam at certain points of time, but they were more tactical in nature, not a matter of conviction. On the other hand, you have forces which are committed to a very Islamist vision of Bangladesh. And some of these parties which have come up in a very strong way in post-Hasina phase in Bangladesh are parties like Jamaat-e-Islami, who in 1971 did not support the Bangladesh Liberation War, who sided with Pakistan, collaborated with the Pakistan army in perpetrating horrible atrocities on their own people, the Bengali people. Mm-hmm. So suddenly these people became very powerful. They have become very powerful for one simple reason. Now, I don't think Professor Yunus, who now heads the interim government, a Nobel laureate, darling of the West, by conviction, I don't think is an Islamist fundamentalist. But what happened, there is a precedent in history. When The Awami League was ousted from power in 1975, and the generals took over. First General Zia and then General Ershad. Now, these were non-political people, military guys. And Yunus is somewhat like that. He's an economist, he's a business person, social business, or whatever you call it. But he's not strictly a politician in the Bengali sense of the term. So he but he had to counter the Awami League. He had a chip on his shoulder vis-a-vis the Awami League because they had tried to put him in jail. They've sued him. Now, who does it go to? Obviously, to counter the Awami League, you go to their enemies. And who are the enemies of Awami League? The people who have a very Islamist vision of Bangladesh, most of them. In Bangladesh, it's perhaps in the nature of Bengalis, there's nothing called centrism. Either you are here or you are there. Very extreme people. And I say that because of being a Bengali myself. The point here is that these are political forces India has never been comfortable with. Now, when the Awami League is out of the equation, the other major political party is the BNP, which has ruled Bangladesh before for several terms, with Begum Khaleda Zia as prime minister. Now, we did try to warm up in 2001 when the BNP came to power. And, India did try to open up to the BNP. Brajesh Mishra used to be the national security advisor, and he often said, he told me once, we can't put all our eggs in one basket anyway. I beg to differ. But the point is, these people did try to open up to the BNP. But then what happened? We got things like, the Chittagong arms case. 10 trucks of weapons coming in illegally and it was clearly evident that part of these weapons were meant for Islamic fundamentalist and radical forces like Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh or Harkatul Jihad al-Islami. Part of these weapons were meant for the Ulfa, which preaches separatism in India's northeastern state of Assam. And Paresh Barua, later on in the case, Paresh Barua has been implicated. He was given a life sentence and all that. So point I'm trying to make is that for India, it was like we tried to open up to the BNP, and what we got in return was things like weapons coming in through Chittagong meant for people who are trying to, hit India very hard. So we lost our faith in BNP. And for the next few years, especially after Awami League came back to power in 2009, we thought, our friends are back, and that's where we are. So really, we didn't have a plan B. New Delhi didn't have a plan B.
Yeah, but Subir, tell me one thing. Has India's relationship with Bangladesh ever been worse than what it is now, or have there been worse periods than now?
Well, I have to say that since 1972, when the country became independent, India's relation with Bangladesh, unfortunately, has been very regime specific. That's not the case with the Chinese. The Chinese cultivated Sheikh Hasina. Sheikh Hasina, brought in a lot of Chinese investment, especially in infrastructure. Today, I can tell you, Mr. Murthy, the Chinese won't even look at her. They're inviting Jamaat-e-Islami to Beijing. They're inviting BNP leaders to Beijing because for the Chinese, line is very clear. We don't have friends. We don't have enemies. We deal with the government of the day. People who take care of our interests. So there's nothing permanent about friends and enemies. As they say in international politics, it's all about interests. India had this, unfortunately, from and in the very nature of our history, 1971, our role then is that our relationship with Bangladesh has been very regime specific. And therefore, I have to say that when the Awami League has been in power, our relations have been good. It has not been good when others have been in power. With the BNP, we somehow had a working relationship, but things got bad, especially after, as I told you, the 2004 Chittagong arms haul. And, we never really trusted the BNP leadership, especially Zia's son, Tariq Rahman, because he seems to have, he and his mother, Begum Zia, very good relation with the Pakistanis. And that's one of the factors, the Pakistan factor comes in. So whoever is seen as friendly with Pakistanis in Bangladesh revives the worst memories or worst, haunting sort of prospect of a second front Islamist problem. Pakistan is bad enough. Now you have a Bangladesh, which becomes a Bengali Pakistan, unacceptable. So unfortunately, that has been the case. Now with Yunus, Initially, Yunus did try to warm up to India, but what Yunus did was two things. The way he sort of hobnobbed and got close to the Islamic radical groups, and I'm not talking of Jamaat Islami alone. Jamaat Islami was banned as a political party under Awami League in Awami League's time and has a sordid history. But actual Islamic radicals who preach, sort of armed struggle, like Ansarullah Bangla team, their Amin, Jashimuddin Rahmani, he was let off. He was let off. People who have been convicted in the Chittagong arms case, Major General Zakul Haider Chaudhry, was not only let off, he recently paid a 12-day visit to China, which has upped the antenna in Delhi. Alarm bells are ringing. Why Zakul Haider Chaudhry was trying to bring in, as the chief of Bangladesh military intelligence, such a big lot of weapons, illegally? Why is he released? And why is he going to China and spending 12 days there? Obviously not on a vacation. So, India is alarmed, and with good reasons.
There are two factors that come to my mind. One is Sheikh Hasina is in India, which is obviously a red rag for, Bangladesh and for the opposition. And secondly, the Awami League being banned from, several political activities and the condition it is in now, will it ever be able to revive? And so, which means that there are two things that are very strongly going against India's diplomatic view or whatever strategy it may be having on Bangladesh. How do you see this?
No, we definitely have a serious problem here, because I'll give you two instances. There are people here among the Awami League guys as well, who are good friends of mine, sitting here in Calcutta, many of them in Delhi, that some magic will happen like PC Sarkar's magic, and we'll be back. But that's not happening, for the very simple reason, two previous instances that the Awami League has been out of power. Once in 75, when they're thrown out by force due to a military coup. It took them 21 years to come back to power when Sheikh Hasina got elected, or she led the party back to power in 1996. Second time, when the Awami League went out of power in 2001, losing the elections, it took them 8 years to come back to power. Now that the Awami League is banned, its official, activities are banned. Yunus, of course, keeps telling us and everybody else that it's a temporary ban. It's all because to, ensure that the trial against these Awami League bigwigs are free and fair. I don't buy that really. But the point here is that it will be some time before the Awami League can get its act back. Having said that, the Awami League is not a fruit plant, as they say in Bangladesh. It's a banyan tree. And it still has a clear 35 to 40% vote bank, regardless of, all the allegations of electoral fraud that has been leveled against them. Very important thing is that the way law and order has been mismanaged by the Yunus government in the last 1 year. You get to hear from a lot of ordinary common people that I speak to in Bangladesh, "Agei bhalo chilam, pehlei acha tha, we were better before." So it's not just that the Awami League has done something, to regain its popularity, but it's because people are so fed up with rampant extortion, rampant, as they say, mob justice. You suddenly bring to an extortion. Business climate has gone for a toss. A lot of business people that I know, especially garments, ready-made garments being the main I have a lot of friends there for years. And they say, if we had to pay 1 lakh rupees previously as bribe to get a thing done, it's 5 times more now. It's chaos, and it's chaos compounded. And Yunus has no control because he does not have any administrative experience really in running the country. And the Student Youth Brigade, who brought him to power, themselves are involved in all these corrupt activities. A lot of evidence has already surfaced. Now, there is another issue here, and that is the issue of elections. A lot of people thought, including some of my friends in the Bangladesh army, that the army should not be out doing police duties, civilian duties for such a long time, because then we get affected by the corruption that exists in civilian life administration. Standard army thing. They say it here also in our country. Civil mein sab corrupt hai, that kind of thing. But the point here that I'm trying to make is that, Yunus has been very ambivalent about elections. Even yesterday, when he delivered his speech, one at the anniversary of the revolution, as they call it, he said elections are likely to take place in early February, before the month of Ramadan, before Ramadan gets going. But likely, he never says this. When he met Tariq Rahman, the BNP acting chairperson in London in June, he also said if the reforms go well, if the intended reforms happen, what is the story about reforms? Reforms, serious constitutional reforms, are the business of an elected parliament, at least an elected constituent assembly. It's not supposed to be done by an interim government which has no electoral mandate. So if you guys are blaming Sheikh Hasina for electoral fraud, for rigging elections, or for not doing elections properly, you guys are not even elected. You're not even prepared to face election. That's the big problem with you. So a lot of people are saying, Sheikh Hasina, well, we had problems with the way she did elections. You are not even trying to do elections, uncle. You must first get elected if you want to. Now, I have inside information that he is actually trying to pressurize, because with the Army League out of the equation now, temporary ban or whatever you call it, and they won't be able to field candidates, maybe only few as independent, whatever. In that case, the major front runner is the BNP. They are the other party, big party. But Yunus does not enjoy the kind of backing from the BNP that he has from the Jamaat-e-Islami, some of these other smaller Islamist groups, which have been at best very marginal in Bangladesh politics. Jamaat has never had more than 10% of the popular vote because it was seen as a party of Pakistan, essentially, against the nationalist current. And also the NCP, National Citizens Party, which is created by the student and youth, many of whom have strong fundamentalist background. Some of them are from Hizb ut-Tahrir and other such organizations. But point here is, Yunus is trying to create a situation in which there is no competitive election. BNP versus the rest. If Army League is out of the equation, it will be BNP versus Jamaat Islami and the other groups like NCP. Yunus wants them to be in a coalition with a seat-sharing arrangement in which, out of the 300 seats in Bangladesh Parliament, at least 100 seats, 50 with Jamaat, 50 with other Islamic groups and the NCP. Because he intends, and I know this for a fact, to be the next president of Bangladesh. Mr. Shahabuddin Chuppu is the present president, is seen as a vestige of the old earlier regime. He's an Army League nominee. Now, why Yunus wants this? Yunus does not want the hassle of day-to-day administration. He's 85, but he wants a clear say in policy. He is very keen to exercise power. Secondly, he wants immunity from prosecution. As a president, he will be assured of that. Why? He has been accused before, several allegations, including labor law violations, what have you, embezzlement, and money laundering, and he was nearly jailed. He got bail, but he was nearly.
But this,
now, if he is president, he gets immunity from prosecution, so he wants to be president.
Yeah, but it's in this interplay of politics and factionalism and the ban on Awami, is there a danger that Bangladesh could be slipping into anarchy?
I can see that happening. No, it's not likely to. It has already slipped into anarchy, serious anarchy. They call it mobocracy, mob justice. These are very prevalent words in Bangladesh. And it's not just Army League people who are saying it, very respected authorities on Bangladesh watchers, like Dr. Kalimullah, all these very serious. I mean, if you can just get a principal out of the college by sending a mob there, people who don't like him, you force him to resign. Everywhere this has been happening. They couldn't do it with the army. That's the only institution where that did not happen, because the army chief, General Walker, put his foot down. He tried to insulate. But every other institution, look at what has happened to the police. Thousands of policemen have been killed. No justice, no cases for that. They were killed. So Bangladesh has slipped into anarchy already, and this is a serious problem for India, because if Bangladesh slips into anarchy, political and social anarchy. B, it's definitely, this anarchy will have an effect on business, on economy, because Bangladesh economy, the problem is it's not a very diversified economy. Yeah, it's dependent. 80% of their export incomes come from garments, and they are in severe competition because of trans tariff and all that other stuff.
Yep.
The point here is, if there is an economic crisis in Bangladesh, if they have problems repaying the loans that they've taken from multilateral institutions, and if factories keep closing down, already a lot of factories have been closing down. One of my sisters, I have a lot of sisters, Muslim sisters in Bangladesh. Some of them give me bhai tika. One of them is a top-notch economic journalist who is working on the garments, and she told me a very sad story. She said, Dada, in Ghazipur, one of the strong pockets of garment industry, the women workers, 70% of the workers in garment factories are women. And this is one of the factors of women empowerment. It's less to do with government, more to do with this natural economic process. These women who were working in those factories, since the factories have closed down, they're now standing outside that factory in evening and post-evening hours offering themselves. You know what I mean? It's so sad to hear this. So if this kind of things happen, and especially with a lot of attack on minorities, Hindus, Buddhists, even Shia, Sufi sides, we have to remember that it is the Sufis who popularized Islam in the Bengal frontier. So Bengal's Islam was very different. It was more syncretic in nature. It was epitomized by figures like Lalon Fakir, who sort of accepted, cross-religious sort of tolerance and all that. Now, these Sufi shrines, more than 100 of them, have been demolished because people like Jamaat, people like this hardline Islamist groups, they see the Sufis and their tolerant version of Islam as an antithesis to what they preach, the Salafist Wahhabi brand of very Arabic kind of Islam. So here there is a serious crisis of social anarchy. There is a serious crisis of political anarchy. 26 to 28 Awami League leaders have died in jail. Now the Awami League is terribly worried that 160 of their senior leaders have been brought to one jail in Keraniganj. They think something may happen to them because there is a precedent. After the killing of Sheikh Mujib, several senior Awami League leaders like Tajuddin Ahmed, who led the freedom struggle because the prime minister, 4 or 5 of these very senior leaders were killed in the jail in November 1975. So people are very worried now. The point here is,
it's looking dark from what you're saying, but any silver lining, anything that you think can redeem the country, any positives that can, counterbalance what you're saying, even if it's a silver lining?
Well, I really can't see a silver lining in the very dark clouds. And I've seen these dark clouds in Bangladesh before, and I saw this coming, actually. I can tell you, I've been writing in Federal and other places. I saw this coming for various different reasons, but there was so much complacence. Without getting into the history of it, let me tell you, at the moment, if finally elections are there, at least, and if they are, fair, they can't be fully fair. If you ban the Awami League, Indira Gandhi went out of place. She was accused of being authoritarian after the emergency. But did that lead to a ban on the Congress? It's somewhat like that. Exactly like that. Awami League today, if you ban it, if you don't allow, Awami League has ruled the country for half the time of its post-independent history. You ban that party, saying everybody in the party is a fascist. I don't know. In that case, how can the elections be representative if you leave out the major political party? Various political parties have been accused of authoritarian tendencies, including the Congress, because of the role during emergency. But was it banned? Was it prevented from competing elections? So, Bangladesh democracy, the immaturity and the weaknesses of Bangladesh democracy is now showing up. So I really don't.
Will step in? You think the army also will step in to, like in the past, when there is an issue with the civilian governments?
Well, if I know General Walker's mind, which I think I do, General Walker is a professional soldier, and he could have actually taken over. He could have effected a military takeover any time in the last 1 year, but he stayed away because he has been telling his close circle, I want. He sought magistracy power for the army so that he can bring law and order under control. It has not really worked out because army is not trained for law and order, Mr. Murthy. They're polices, and the police out of the equation. Even the army does not know who in your mohalla is a pickpocket or who is creating the local law and order. The army is a force of the barracks, basically trained to fight a foreign enemy. Bangladesh army has done well for itself in the past, UN peacekeeping duties and other things, but they have not ruled the country for a very long time. Ershad, long time back, 1991, 25 years ago nearly. So more than that actually. So
30 years,
So the trouble is General Walker actually wants quick elections. He had said that we want elections in December so that the army can go back and there is a regular government in place. He also has been insisting that don't make a huge issue of the reforms. Just what is the job of an interim government? Not to do breathtaking, path-breaking reforms. Your job is basically to get a semblance of law and order back so that the climate for a free and fair elections can be achieved. Now, Mr. Yunus is like 1/11, 2006 to 2008, when the caretaker government came to power. Same problem happened. They were supposed to have elections within a definite time frame, 3 months, 4 months. They stayed on for 2 years with military backing. So General Walker is very clear in his mind. He does not want to repeat that mistake because he thinks that in hindsight, his sense of history tells him, and he has said this to his very close friends, I know it for a fact, that military rule does not go well with the Bengali psyche. They may welcome the army for a while, but after then people will turn against the army. So it's better not to get involved. Bengalis are a difficult people to govern. So, let's get things in order. Let an elected government come. So far, he has resisted the temptation. But if there is a serious law and order crisis, like if, some kind of civil unrest erupts, because the Awami League is trying to reorganize. And it's trying to reorganize because there is no normal avenue. We saw that in the recent violence in Gopalganj, where they tried to prevent the NCP from entering because they thought they will, like they have destroyed Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's house, they may destroy his mazar, his graveyard. So they resisted. And then the army had to step in, open fire, kill 4 or 5 people, maybe more. And that did not make the army very popular. But if such things happen, the army will have to, come out and try to stop complete descent into anarchy. But if General Walker can... Sorry?
No, from what you are saying, it looks like Bangladesh is at a kind of crossroads, and I think a lot of tact and a fortune should favor Bangladesh for it to recover fully from what it has gone through the last 1 year. Thank you so much, Subir, for talking to the Federal. Thank you.
Thanks, Vish.